Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, Behind Enemy Lines edition. And the West Virginia Mountaineers are on the slate. And we've got one of my favorite Big 12 content creators. I hope that's what he calls himself on that front. And Justin Couz Walker, the guy that, looking at your channel, Couz, I like how you obviously prioritize West Virginia. We can see that from the hat. But I love the Big 12 channels now that are kind of, picking and choosing their spots in terms of, hey, I want to talk about this from a different point of view, from the
Right.
Oklahoma State side or the Texas
Yep.
Tech side, whatever it may be. Give my opinion on those programs. And I
Mhm.
think you do a phenomenal job. And I'm
Well,
so
thank you.
excited to have you on the show today, man.
Well, man, it's an honor to be here. Texas Tech fans and West Virginia fans have somewhat bonded over social media these past few months, man. It's been really cool to see. I think we cheer for each other when we're not playing one another, obviously. So, hats off to Texas Tech fans and really all Big 12 fans, man. Over this last year and a half with all this conference realignment craziness, I think we've all kind of become one big happy family.
Yeah.
It's kind of Big 12 against everybody else, right? So,
Yeah. No,
that's
it's the
how I
fun
look at it.
conference. Yeah, it's the
Right. There
fun
you go.
conference, in my opinion, man. Like,
Absolutely.
hey, Texas Tech hasn't done their part in terms of elevating the conference in early
Neither have we.
non-con play. But
Neither of well, this year, well, we did beat
yeah,
Pitt, but I don't.
y'all beat Pitt at least. You know what I mean? Like, at least you beat a Power Five opponent. Looking at Oklahoma State, South Alabama at home. What are we doing, Mike Gundy? What are we doing? No, but we're gonna talk about West Virginia, Texas Tech. But before we even do that, Kuz, I want people to know where they can find your stuff. I want to support your channel as much as possible. I see some people on here already saying live stream. Let's go, RC and Kuz. So where can everybody find your stuff?
I am on Couz's Corner. That's my YouTube channel. Obviously, you see the spelling on the screen. I cover obviously West Virginia, number one, but I also cover Big 12. I do a lot on conference realignment when it's hot and heavy. I'm on social media on X at Couz206. I have a Facebook page. I'm not very active on it, but I do have one. Instagram, TikTok, the whole bit. I have them all, but X is really the one I'm more active on. So if you want to interact with me, that's where to find me.
Man, you've made the transition to calling it X, huh? More
Finally.
respect to you. More
Well,
respect to you.
I have to think about it still, but
That's fair. No, I legit. I was talking to my fiance because she works in social media, and I was like, "At work, do y'all call it X?" And she was like, "No, we've all agreed we can't do it. We refuse." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's just like engulfed and like embedded into my brain. Just Twitter,
yeah, it is.
Even though
Yeah, and
that
Twitter rolls off the tongue so much easier too, right?
yeah, like you had a brand, not to go off the tangent here, but you had a brand, and the one thing that was bringing you value, you changed it. I don't know. Didn't make much sense to me. But anyway, jump in and talk about this because we'll save our score predictions for later here on the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I really am interested in West Virginia because, full transparency, I'll be honest with you. In the preseason, if you go back and listen to what I said here on the channel, I was very critical of West Virginia. Just from the sheer fact of I was not a Garrett Greene believer. I'll be honest. And Neil Brown has struggled as the head coach there during his time in Morgantown. But going back and really watching the Pitt game, right? And again, Garrett Greene, we'll talk about his injury here in a little bit. The thing that stood out to me, West Virginia has a true identity. And I don't know how many teams in the Big 12 can actually say that legitimately right now because Texas Tech isn't one of them. I don't know what Texas Tech's identity is, but West Virginia is they're going to ball control, they're going to run the football, they're going to muck the game up, and they're going to be super athletic at the quarterback position and use a guy in Garrett Greene when he's healthy as the ultimate Swiss Army knife. And so, Couz, how would you describe West Virginia? You're obviously a lot closer to it. How would you describe really West Virginia football as it currently stands going into Big 12 play right now?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the identity. That's actually the one thing that us fans have complained about the last 3 to 4 years is we lacked an identity. Who were we? We were an air raid team that liked to run the ball, which, one year we were good at defense, the next year we weren't. It was just like all over the place, right? So what do we hang our hat on? This year, we finally know who we are. And I think the coaching staff, they've decided, you know what, the strength of our team is the offensive line. We have had over 130 some starts coming back. We have a loaded running back room led by C.J. Donaldson. Why not you? We have, a new starting quarterback, whether it was Nicco or Garrett that won the job. Both of them were going to be going into the season as a starter for the first time. We had a bunch of new faces at wide receiver. So, voila, that kind of answered the question, right?
Yeah.
Strong offensive line, strong running game. We were just all kind of sitting back to wait and see, okay, is he actually going to utilize that strength? And it looks like so far they have. So, to answer your question, we are a run-first team who will throw the ball when needed. Now, when Garrett was, before Garrett's injury, and we still don't know 100% sure if he's playing or not. We're assuming he's not. But, he's better at down the field, throwing the deep ball. That's his strength of his passing game. Short and intermediate stuff, he was a little iffy on. Nicco, on the other hand, I think is the opposite. He's stronger at throwing the ball in the middle of the field, intermediate and shorter stuff. His deep ball's not terrible, but it's not his strength, right? So I think run the ball, do the RPO play action stuff to get the ball, to pass the ball when we need to. And I think that's our identity right now. And then our defense is not going to be elite, but it's kind of a bend but don't break type defense that can try to turn you over a lot, try to put pressure on the quarterback, stop the run, and basically try to play a ball control, keep away type of game.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech and West Virginia, stylistically, from what they do defensively, are very similar. Because Texas Tech, they'll give up as many yards as you want between the 20s, but they'll get really, really stingy when it comes down to the red zone, and really make you think about what you're doing down there. And I think that really comes from the senior aspect for Texas Tech. I find it interesting that you talk about Nicco, and again, we don't know if Garrett's going to play in this, but the backup quarterback, and there's going to be a ton of talk about Nicco if he does start because, well, Texas Tech starting quarterback Tyler Shough and Nicco are from the same hometown in Hamilton, Arizona.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm sure they're not going to mention that. Just like I don't know if you remember the Daggy game a couple years ago in Lubbock, where they mentioned every 5 seconds that he was from Lubbock.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's going to be like that as well this weekend. If
Probably
Nicco
so.
does inevitably start, would love to see Garrett play.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting because Nicco is one of those guys where I think he's a really solid guy. Obviously, not much experience. But do you think stylistically the offense changes whatsoever with him at the quarterback spot? Because I know you just mentioned, hey, Garrett's the guy that's the play action, uses mobility, and got the big arm, right? How does that potentially change the West Virginia outlook if Nicco is inevitably the starting quarterback?
For me, it doesn't change it a lot. Stylistically, I don't think – first off, let's touch on the stylistic piece. Stylistically, I don't think it changes a lot other than the plays they call in the passing game may be a little different. They may call less downfield stuff, a little more, slants, quick stuff because, where he is inexperienced. They want him to get rid of the ball quickly, not have to think much. They'll probably, not have as many plays available to him. Might shorten the, cut off half the field for him, give him so he doesn't have to go through more than a couple reads, those types of things. And Nicco can run the ball. A lot of people outside of our fan base may not. He's not as fast as Garrett Greene. He doesn't have that speed, but he is a good runner. If you go back and watch his high school tape, he can run with the football, and he can make plays with his legs when he has to. It's just not his preference. Garrett, he prefers to run the ball.
Yeah, he does.
Nicco would rather pass it and then run if he has to, or if a play opens up on an RPO, like against Pitt, one of our big plays was a 3rd and 6 RPO. He read the DN crashed. He pulled it and ran it around the end, gained about 7 yards, got a first down. We were able to bleed about 3 to 4 minutes more off the clock and help seal the game. So he can do that. It's just not his preference. But and as far as outcome, I personally, and we'll get to the outcome later, I personally don't think it'll change the outcome of the game for me. Now, some people may disagree with that.
No, and again, I'll admit, I don't want to call myself like a Garrett Greene hater, just not a Garrett Greene believer. And mostly because of the fact that, again, truth be told, I thought he was just an athlete trying to play quarterback. I didn't, know what kind of guy he was going to be in terms of reading the defense. But in the games that he played or has played, I thought he's actually done a pretty damn good job considering the circumstances that he's been in. Now, is he, Jalen Daniels or anything like that? No, I don't think anybody's trying to put him in that conversation. But I do think he is a good quarterback. And Nicco, I find interesting from the standpoint of you talk about he's more of that intermediate and short game. I think that that actually plays into Texas Tech a little bit better from the standpoint of they're really good from their secondary when things are in front of him. The problem with Texas Tech is when a receiver gets by them, done so. They can't
Oh,
catch up. And looking at the West Virginia wide receivers, I mean, well, there is a tight end as well that really stands out
mhm.
in Taylor, but you got Carter, and then you've got a guy that is one of the most fascinating players in the Big 12 to me, Couz and Hudson Clement, right? Like this guy, West Virginia native, stayed home, right? Like he's one of those guys as a freshman that when I watch him play, I'm like, oh, he's going to be an absolute problem, regardless of who the quarterback is for a long time. Like, is he for the people that just look at the stats, right? Averaging what, like 30 yards of reception right now, or something like that? Just something
Mhm.
egregious, right? Like, that's not going to sustain. But like for the people that don't know, like what Hudson Clement bring to the table from the standpoint of when I watch him, I'm like, oh, you got to focus on this guy. And I think it does a really good job for your run game in terms of going to his side of the field because
Mhm.
that corner has to stay locked on him at all times.
Mhm. Well, Hudson Clement, like you said, a phenomenal story. Was a walk on. Earned a
Mhm.
scholarship 2 weeks ago when he
Yeah.
put up that 5 catch for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns performance. He was awarded a scholarship after the game. It was against Duquesne, an FCS opponent. So you've got to, you know, take that for what it's worth. But he is fast. He's probably the second fastest guy in the receiving corps, and he's one of the fastest on the team. And he's tall. You know, he's got some height to him.
Yep.
Uh, Last week, because of the way the game played out, where we ran the ball so much against Pitt, we didn't really get a chance. He did catch a ball, but we didn't really get a chance to see if he can, grow
Sure.
from that Duquesne performance. And really, our whole receiving corps didn't have much of a chance. I mean, we only threw the ball 11 times the entire game, so um, really kind of hard to judge a receiving corps. But he brings a lot. I mean, speed, length, good hands. So far, he's shown to have good hands, which has been a big deal for us because we've had receivers really since Brown's been here. We've had a lot of drops on this team, and even the first 2 games of this year, we had a lot of drops. So that's been an issue for us. So if we can find a guy who's sure-handed and get separation, that's been another problem. Back to what you mentioned earlier with Texas Tech's DBs not being able to keep guys in front of them. Unless our receiving corps shows me something they haven't yet, that shouldn't be easy for you. That should not be hard for your DBs to do with us because our receivers have not done great at getting separation, at least not up to this point. We'll see if that changes, but right now that's been a struggle. So we'll see.
Yeah. No. I think that's a trigger word almost on this channel for people that watch me. Separation.
Mm-hmm.
Because Texas Tech's wide receivers don't do that either. My gosh, it is the most infuriating thing in the entire planet. At least while watching the games, I guess I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't, say the entire planet, but whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah, I think that that's the thing that's most interesting to me because I knew a little bit about his story. I didn't realize that he literally just got the scholarship. I knew he was a
Yeah.
walk on,
Yep.
but I don't know how things went down for him not to have a scholarship right away. I don't know if there was injuries or anything, but when I look at this guy, I'm like, he's going to be a problem in the Big 12 because I don't know if he can be the main wide receiver for West Virginia, but it always seems like West Virginia has a good combo of wide receivers, like in terms of they complement each other well,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may be, like the speed guy and then the tall guy, or vice versa, whatever it is, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they always seem to have that. And I thought that he fit perfectly, especially alongside Carter. I think that they just fit really well. And then obviously you got the tight end as well. Um, Now switching over to the defense, though, I think that everybody knows about the linebacker duo, right? Like those guys, that feels like the heart of your defense, right? Like in terms of
Mm-hmm.
those
Yeah.
guys are gonna just be flying all the way around sideline to sideline and everything. But the thing that stood out to me, specifically in the Pitt game at times, was the secondary. I thought that was a place that West Virginia at times last year and watching the games, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch every game of West Virginia last year. I mean, I just don't have the time, right?
No,
Like,
I
but
don't. I don't watch every Texas Tech game, so
there
no
you go.
worries.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just being honest. I think some people expect us to watch it. I'm like, no, I
Uh,
I I want to do other things too.
we have a life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Heaven
Like my
forbid we have a life.
yeah, my fiance will not allow me to watch every game. Um, But like in the games that I saw, I was like, okay, see bits and pieces of their secondary being good, but it's not consistent, right? Against Pitt, I was like, oh, and then obviously you play Duquesne. Duquesne, you're going to look good against them. But like against Pitt, I was like, okay, first and foremost, that front attack just limiting Pitt in terms of where they could not really do anything
Mhm.
up front was phenomenal. But I thought at times it was really the secondary that stood out in the sense of you got a couple of guys that fly around, get a couple interceptions early on. But I thought there was a couple of versatile guys as well in there. So, in your opinion, watching them all 3 games, who's the maybe 1 or 2 guys that Texas Tech fans need to know in that West Virginia secondary?
In the secondary, Beanie Bishop Jr., who's
Yeah.
transfer corner out of Minnesota. He's a senior, grad transfer. He's got 2 picks already this year. Could have 4. He dropped 2 picks in the Penn State game. Uh, all over the field. He's also one of the leading tacklers on the team as well. So he's
Yes.
been really good for us. And then we have a safety named Aubrey Burks, who also had a pick in that game against Pitt the other night. Aubrey Burks came into the season, according to Pro Football Focus, was the second highest Pro Football Focus score of any returning safety in the country this year. Now, the first game of the year against Penn State, he did not play well. His Pro Football Focus score was in the 20s. It was not a good game for him, but he's turned it around since then. He's played much better the last 2 games. I think that game may have been an anomaly. That's kind of what I'm telling myself. He had a bad night. It happens. That's not who he is. So I feel like he's somebody to look out for back there as well. And then one guy who's very, very underappreciated, even in our own fan base, is Malachi Ruffin. He is a corner. Had that really highlight reel pick at the end of the game last week against Pitt, where he dove
Yes.
and caught it. He was a walk-on. He's the only player on our team that was on the roster the last time we beat Texas Tech, which was when Dana Holgerson was still here. He's the only leftover from that team.
Wow.
He was a walk-on at that point. And I don't even know if he was playing. Maybe special teams. I don't know.
Wow.
But he's basically worked his way into a starting role at corner. He's not an elite corner. He will get beat occasionally, but he will also win some battles occasionally, and he plays his absolute tail off. He can make plays in special teams. He'll make plays on defense. He's just one of those kids you love to root for, or young men you love to root for, because he seems to always just like, for example, it's hard to explain, but for example, last year in a game, I think it was the last game of the season, he thought he had stripped the ball from a guy, and he stood up and went like this. Well, the guy still had the ball and ran down the field. I think he may have scored a touchdown. So he kind of quit on the play. Well, later in that game, he made 2 game-saving pass breakups in a row to save the game for West Virginia. So, I mean, he's that kind of player. He never stops. He's never going to give up on the play. I know I'm ranting, but I just love
No.
I love that young man. He's just the kind of guy you want to root for. From a walk-on to a scholarship player to a starter.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
No. I mean, like that's college football right there. Like those are the cool stories in college football. Obviously, the Colorados of the world are obviously, getting a lot of attention. But when I
Mhm.
think of like the core of what college football is about, it's about players like that work their way up, have to wait their turn, work their what's off every day, and then they get rewarded for a year or 2 and
Mhm.
make the most out of their opportunity. So I think that's what college football is all about. Couz, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a lot of people in here giving you shout outs. We'll put them on the screen. We got Roy. Let's go.
Thank you,
RC and
Roy.
Couz. There we go. Roy, also, the amount of people on Twitter with all the Big 12 in West Virginia is incredible. I'm sure you saw a lot
I
of that
loved it.
on
I
Twitter.
did, man. I did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We love
No,
our
I
we
think
love our fellow Big 12 fans, man.
yeah. I think West Virginia and Texas Tech are so much more alike than I think people realize. Like in terms of like the isolation aspect of things. And just like I mean this in the nicest way possible. I think the fans at both fan bases are absolutely lunatics. And I think that's again what makes college football so great. So
Absolutely.
it's awesome. This from Salt of the Earth. Couz is the man. Love his show. Got to give all the love while it's here, right?
Love Salt of the Earth. I see him on my show a lot.
And then we got Couz. I actually think Extra was one of the 4 or 5 people, Couz, that asked me to reach out to you.
I actually saw that in the comments of one of your other videos.
There you go. Yeah, he was one of them. So
Thank you,
appreciate
extra.
There you go. And then Justin, why can't the whole conference be this chill? You love to hear it. And
I'm
then,
not always chill.
hey, and I wasn't either. I don't know if you saw my Big 12 video earlier. I was going off on the entire conference, mostly teams that are just flat out underachieving, and Texas Tech is one of them. But Extra's got a question here for you, Couz. What does a Pitts fan's diet consist of?
Hey, can I say it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let it fly.
Shit, man. No, absolutely. It's shit. I eat shit every meal of the day.
I love it. Yeah, you can let them fly whenever you want. Whenever you want, let them fly.
I try to be, not every. Some people don't allow cursing on their channel, so I don't really consider that cursing, but some people do. So I try to be respectful.
I go on those rants, Couz, where I look back at it. I'm like, I didn't curse in it, and then I go watch it back just to make sure like the lighting and the mic sounds good. And I'm like, RC, you cursed in the first 5 seconds 3 times. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's not child friendly at all. But you just gotta let them fly sometimes,
you know. Have you seen the videos floating around Twitter where we were chanting at the game?
Oh yeah, the student section.
The Sweet Caroline song. And, yeah.
No,
that's where it all started, actually.
Really? Is that how like that?
Yeah,
obviously, I mean,
Pitt plays Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter. Yeah, Pitt plays Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter at every one of their home games. It was a tradition they started, I don't know, a long time ago. Why they picked that song, I have no idea, but they did. And West Virginia fans just started, instead of bye, 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 we eat shit, Pitt. And it just stuck. And so our AD and our team, whoever that is, media team, decided to play it at our game. And when it got to bop, 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 they actually turned the music off so that you could hear the crowd saying eat shit, Pitt. It was really pretty cool. I'll be honest, I'm not sure our former athletic director would have done that. Ren Baker's the freaking bomb, man. We love that guy.
I think we can agree with that. I know that there's some Tech fans that don't like Kirby Hocutt. I'm a huge Kirby guy for Texas Tech. I think he's done phenomenal things for Texas Tech. Nick says, I agree with that. West Virginia and Texas Tech fan bases are similar. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like Texas Tech and West Virginia, they're just like very underappreciated for what they bring to the table, which is understandable. I mean, I don't think they're national brands or anything like that, or, you know, at that level of the Texas and Oklahoma's. Very few schools are. But at the same time, you look at it, West Virginia, they've got a crazy great history in a lot of sports. Texas Tech the same way, right? Like it goes both ways. And I think the best part about it is, again, mean this in the nicest way possible. The fan bases are absolutely lunatics, and that's what makes sports great.
I've got a little bit of trivia for Texas Tech fans. They may not, some of them may know this, some may not.
Let's do it.
West Virginia is one of only 2 schools in the country that are top 25 in wins all time in both football and basketball.
Who's the other?
Texas.
No way.
Yes, look it up. Yeah, we don't have a natty in either sport, though, which is, you know, that's, you know, which kind of sucks.
Where did Texas get those wins in basketball?
I don't know. Apparently they were good back in the day at some point. I don't know where West Virginia got them all, to be frank. But
I mean, you got the logo. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we were good back then.
Sure. That was a while ago.
We hit a period back in the, I guess, the 80s where we weren't very good. And then when we got John Beeline in the, I guess, early 2000s, he turned it around. And of course, Huggins took it to another level. So
sure. Yeah, Huggins is a sensitive subject. I know that right now.
It is.
But it is what it is on that front, I guess. Yeah. Let's get back to the football game, though.
Yeah, sorry, man. I didn't mean to get you.
No, you're good. No. Listen, I'm all about tangents. I want all the tangents we can get. That's when podcasting and whatever the hell this is the best. No one wants to actually hear our takes on football. Let's be real. Let's be real about it. But I guess if we have to talk about football, here we go. So looking at this game, right, I'm curious from your standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. You're an outsider looking in at Texas Tech. What are the top 2-3 things you're like, oh, that makes me nervous when it comes to Texas Tech up against West Virginia on Saturday afternoon?
Number one is your tempo. We have struggled with that tempo. You know, we know Zach Keatley likes to move fast. One of the things West Virginia has been able to do this year on the defensive side of the ball is we've been playing 10 defensive linemen every game.
Whew.
They rotate guys in and out like crazy. We won't be able to do that Saturday. So,
is there a level of drop off real quick at all?
not
Like, is it
not
considerable?
a lot, not a
Okay,
lot. That's why they do it. We
that's awesome.
we are really deep at that position. Obviously some drop off,
Sure.
but not a lot. That's the number one thing that scares me. Obviously, our DBs being able to cover your receivers scares me because I know you have some talent there and some speed. And then Taj Brooks. I mean, Taj Brooks scares me a little bit. He's a really good running back. They haven't given him the ball enough, but he's a really good running back. And Neil Brown even said he thinks he might be one of the most underrated backs in the country. So that's all that concerns me.
No, that's interesting on the defensive line because on the preview, I said that the biggest matchup in this entire football game, I think that the one singular matchup that will dictate the game on Saturday, whichever team wins this, wins the game, in my opinion. And it was the West Virginia D-line against the Texas Tech offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you mentioned Taj Brooks. I've been preaching basically since the Wyoming game where I don't know. Taj Brooks just went MIA. It was crazy. I don't get it, but
was it his fault? Were they not giving him the ball, or was he just not doing?
Oh no. I mean, I think you can. And again, Tech fans, let me know in the comments if I'm off base here. He just disappears, and it's a Zach Kitley thing. Like Kitley, again, I think perfect example. The Oregon game, he was averaging 11 yards a carry. Now, granted, a lot of that came off of one carry, right? But he only touched the ball total 9 times in that game. Tyler Shough ran the ball 23 times at the quarterback spot. Like, am I saying that Taj Brooks is like the savior or anything like that? No, but I do think he is. I think Neil Brown's right on track in terms of he is one of the more underrated running backs in the country. And I don't think that he's used properly in a lot of senses. But the reason being is this: the Tech offensive line has struggled. And it's almost one of those deals where you look at it and you're like, damn it, Taj, I wish you weren't as good of a blocker as you are. So he's really good in pass protection at the running back position. He can pick up a blitz and everything like that. And I think having him on the field allows guys to, okay, now we feel like we can pass better. And obviously, if he's pass blocking, he's not going to touch the ball.
Right.
But I do think that that's where things get interesting on Saturday, is that defensive line of West Virginia against the Tech offensive line from the standpoint of I'm not too worried about the interior of the Tech offensive line. You talk about how many starts West Virginia has coming back. Tech's up there as well, right? I mean, the guy that has the least amount of starts is Dennis Wilburn, and he started every game last year at the center position for Texas Tech. He's now the right guard, right? They've struggled at the tackles a little bit, but you got a guy in Cole Spencer, went to Western Kentucky. Rusty Stats went to Western Kentucky as well. They've struggled for a series here and there, but for the whole season, they've been pretty steady, right? I don't know if steady's good enough against that West Virginia front, though. That's the problem. And the thing that scares me the most is the fact that you have two legitimate linebackers that understand leverage at a high level in terms of keeping in a spot they need to be, in terms of they're okay if it's a run play, they're okay if it's a pass play, right? Like they understand their limitations. And I'm curious to see how that works. Now, granted, for Texas Tech, you get your home run hitter out of the backfield and Cameron Valdez back. We'll see how much he gets to play. But it's going to be interesting in that regard because I think tempo is going to be the key. I agree with you in the sense that the tempo is going to be the key for Texas Tech standpoint because you have to keep those West Virginia linebackers and the defensive front on the field at all times and really not give them a shot in terms of rotating in and out and everything like that. So that's really the thing that I'm most interested in from that standpoint. But I also think when you look at the Texas Tech side of things and how they match up against West Virginia, I think that the one thing that really intrigues me is the run game of West Virginia against Texas Tech. And the reason being is this, Couz, like you look at what they did against Oregon. I don't think it's short to say that Oregon has one of the best rushing attacks in the country. They got one of the best offensive lines and everything like that. You hear it at nauseum on Twitter or wherever you get your information about Texas Tech football. Why is Texas Tech not getting after the passer? This, that, and the other. Well, against Oregon, they were worried about containing an edge, right? That's what they were worried about and making sure that the run game was limited. But I wonder how they play it against West Virginia. And maybe things are different because, or depending on who the quarterback is, right? If it's Garrett Greene, okay, maybe they do things a little differently. I still think it's probably a little far-fetched from everything I'm hearing right now that Garrett Greene plays. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think that that's probably the most interesting aspect from the standpoint, okay, Texas Tech has proven they can at least limit the run, not absolutely stop it. But what does that look like for West Virginia if Texas Tech does limit the run? Where does West Virginia go with potentially their backup quarterback starting? And so those are kind of the things that really stand out to me.
Right.
But I also think it's one of those deals too where I don't think it can be understated again. Like, I know Texas Tech has had success recently in Morgantown, but Texas Tech is just not a good road team. I mean, they're pretty much hot garbage when it comes down to it. But I don't know. Maybe they figured out the thing in Morgantown. I really don't know. But do you think when you look at West Virginia, right, and obviously run first team as we talked about, where do you think that they run the best? Is it outside or is it between the tackles? Where does Donaldson do most of his damage? Is he more of a bounce guy?
Well, normally I would say no. Normally I would say up the middle because
Okay.
we have that All-American center and Zach Frazier right there anchoring our
There you
O-line.
go.
But when you go back and watch the Pitt game, he hit a couple nice runs on on the outside, running that outside zone. So it really just depends, man. I mean, he's not really limited. I mean, he can hit it either way, but I still think if I had to pick one, I would say up the middle would be his because he's just a downhill runner, man, and he needs to hit the hole and hit it quick. And I think running right behind that All-American center and Zach Frazier is probably where he's going to make most of his hay at.
Yeah.
If I had to pick.
That's interesting to me too, because if you look at where Texas Tech is best defensively, it's right there in the middle
Is it?
with Tony Bradford and Jalen Hutchins, right? Like that's where
Yeah.
Texas Tech makes their money. And so if that's the case, I really truly look at this game, and the more that I look at everything going on, I'm just like, oh, okay. So it's like, who's going to bend first or who's going to break first? Because they're basically trying to do the same things,
Mhm.
right? To some degree, it's just really who wins out in the end in terms of does a bounce go their way. And also, let's jump into the odds now. -6.5 for Texas Tech in Morgantown. That seems egregious. That's wild to me anyway. Like, I think this should be a closer line, just because again, it's in Morgantown. I'll go ahead and say I think Texas Tech is the more talented overall team from top to bottom. But again, we're talking about a team that went 1-5 on the road last year, and they lost to Wyoming already. And there's a lot of questions at the quarterback position. We haven't really even talked about Tyler Shough yet.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's just interesting to me. What was your first thoughts on the line when you saw Texas Tech was favored by that much? Were you kind of surprised a little bit?
Not really. I'll be
Really?
honest with you. I'm a little higher on Texas Tech than even some of you
Okay.
got. Some of your own fan base is. Number one, Wyoming is not a terrible football team. They are a pretty good football team. I
Sure.
know they're a group of 5, and from everything I've heard and read about Wyoming, and I'm no expert on Wyoming football by any stretch, but from everything I've heard, it is a really tough place to play for whatever reason. A lot of teams
That
struggle there.
elevation kicks your
Yeah,
ass, dude.
yeah. So I guess that's probably what it is the elevation. But it's a
Yeah.
tough place to play. They're not a bad team. They got their quarterback looks like he's pretty decent. I mean, I watched several plays he made. He was taking shots, and he was still able to get rid of the football and make completions. So, to me, that loss is not as egregious. Yeah, I know it looks bad, but it's not as egregious as probably people make it out to be. And then, by God, you should have beat Oregon. And I mean, you played toe to toe with Oregon and should have won the game.
Couz.
So and
Couz.
Oregon's
I
a
was
really
at the game. I was at the game, Couz.
oh no.
I legitimately have never seen a dumber pass in my nearly 30 years existence of life. I felt bad because I tried to control my cursing at the game because there were children in front of me. And if you say the curse word, I promise to God I said it out loud when Tyler Shough threw that pick. Everyone that is okay to say in a public setting, I said that shit. I was going. He literally handed him the football. I've never seen. Sorry, tangent.
It's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
No, but I mean, I don't think Texas Tech is a bad football team. I know they struggled on the road. I mean, and when you look, and also here's another thing. And you asked me earlier what worries me. There's a lot more than 3, but you only asked for 3.
Sure.
Here's another one that worries me. You guys got a lot of guys coming back that have been injured.
Yeah,
you got like 6 guys or something coming back.
Yeah, a ton of them. Yep.
So that kind of worries me a little bit, and because you guys haven't been at full strength either, apparently. So, I don't know when those guys got injured or anything like that. I know, because I'm not able to, like we said earlier, I'm not able to follow Texas Tech football as closely as I'd like. You can speak to that more than I can, obviously, but so I'm concerned about that. But yeah, I actually think the line didn't surprise me that much, only because number one, nobody's been expecting West Virginia to do anything this year anyway, and
guilty.
We're probably still going to be. I mean, right now, if you look at they've got the spread. They still have Cincinnati favored to beat us in Morgantown right now, and Cincinnati just got beat by Miami of Ohio. So take that.
Are you serious?
That's somebody. Well, I saw somebody post that on Twitter earlier today. I said Twitter. Dang it!
There we go. That's what we love to hear.
But no, somebody posted it on there earlier today that I haven't checked to verify it. But
the ESPN thing?
Yes, the matchup indicator.
Sure enough. That is okay. Well, if that's any indication of the line, I will be betting on West Virginia that game.
Well, here's and I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? I don't want to blow smoke.
Yeah.
Pitt's offense is horrific, man.
Oh no, I watched 2 minutes of it and I was like, oh my God, this is abysmal.
Bill Dracovic, why I can't believe he's still starting this week. He is one of the worst quarterbacks I have ever seen play in a football game ever.
Let's do it.
I'm not trying to take anything away from what our guys were able to do.
Yeah.
Hey, like I told, one of those interceptions, they literally threw it right to him. Bill Dracovic literally threw it right to, I think it was the Beanie Bishop one. He literally was standing there and he threw it to him. Now Beanie made a play with it. He ran it for like 26 yards afterwards. So he made, or maybe it was 40. I can't remember. Nonetheless, he made a play with the football. So he did what he was supposed to do. So nothing away from him. But Phil Dracovic was bad, man. I mean, he's horrendous. Yeah. So
is this his third school now?
Yes, he went to Notre Dame, Boston College, and he was really good at one time. Right. I don't know what's happened to him.
I was trying to remember the second school. I couldn't remember the second school because I was like, I knew he was at Notre Dame.
Yeah, he had the best year of his career at Boston College. I mean, he's NFL scouts have been pretty high on him up until now. He has just fallen off the map, man. I guess Pitt is where quarterbacks go to die. I don't know.
Unless you're Kenny Pickett.
Unless you're Kenny
AKA
Pickett.
Two Gloves. Yeah. AKA Two Gloves Small Hands.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Before we get anything else, I want to hear where people are watching from. I'm sure Couz does too. Let me know in the comments where y'all are watching from. Last time we had somebody watching from China. He was a tech grad that works over there. Yeah. So I don't know how the hours work, but we appreciate him. So
as a YouTuber, one of the coolest things you can hear, I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, and I've only had it happen, I think, maybe once, is you get a comment from somebody that's overseas, in the military.
Yes.
Saying that your channel helps them get through their day or helps make their life better or whatever. That's cool stuff, man.
No, so again, I've only been doing this for about a year.
You've got 8,000 subs in a year?
Yeah, man. To be fair, I'm lucky. I know my place. I'm not one of those guys that's going to come out here and brag or anything like that. I feel like I think authenticity is the best thing.
I'll brag for you.
Platform.
That's a hell of a job, man. I don't know if people realize how hard that is to do.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I think the average YouTuber gets less than 1,000 a year.
No, it's a grind, as you know, though. If you take it seriously in terms of putting good content out there, it doesn't feel like a job because you just love it, right? But also, I don't think people know the back hours that we put in terms of making a thumbnail, research, trying to line stuff up, whatever it may be, right?
That takes longer
But
than the actual video.
this is the easy part.
Yeah, the
This
fun
is
part
the
is this right here. This is what we
this is
love
the
to do.
easy part, man.
But no,
But yeah,
man, kudos to you, brother. I didn't realize you. I've been doing it 2 years, and I'm over 6,000, which is still pretty good. I'm, but 8, man, that's awesome, man. Great job.
and I'm lucky from the sense of a little bit of my background. I worked in Lubbock media for a little bit. Obviously, went to
Okay.
school at Texas Tech, and I had a little bit of a base before I started to kick into the YouTube
okay.
action. So I
Well,
had
that's
that
good.
little
That
bit
is-
base, and then everybody kind of followed me. But
Okay, that's good though. But still, though, that's still good.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think the same for you. Like, I mean, I'm looking at some YouTube channels where they only have like 500, and I'm like, there's no reason you should have 500. You should have, like 7, 8,000.
A lot of it is SEO, man. People don't understand SEO.
Dude,
They don't understand all
it's
that.
your best friend, man.
People don't want to hear us talk about that stuff, so I don't want to get off
That's
on it.
part of my day job, so I completely understand. Yeah, you're right. Nobody wants to hear about that crap. From Nick, deep South Texas. I don't know where that is. I'm gonna guess. Can you name a town in the deep south of Texas, Couz?
Me?
Yes.
San
Any town
Antonio?
there we go. Fine. We'll roll with it. That's where Extra's from. You and Extra. Buddies tonight. Buddies.
Well, I got a buddy that lives in San Antonio, so that's
All right. Do you know the Charles Barkley bit about San Antonio women?
I don't refresh my memory. I probably do. I just can't remember it.
They're bigger. That's what he says, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. Okay.
They're bigger.
Yeah, he took help. He called help for that one.
Every time I see San Antonio, I think of that Charles Barkley. Every time. And then Roy said, behind enemy lines, working out here in Austin. You ever been to Austin?
No, I've never been to Texas, period. It's on my bucket list.
I'll say this. I'm biased. I think Dallas is by far the best city, like in terms of cities in Dallas, like the 4 major ones. Got to go out to Lubbock if you love a good college town.
I wish I could. If I didn't have a full-time job, dude, if I could do this full-time, I would probably I would probably go to every game. I'd fly to Dallas and Lubbock and Kansas, Manhattan, and I'd go to every Big 12 city, man. That's on my. I'd love to do that one day.
That's what
I want to visit every Big 12 city.
That's what I told my fiance. I was like, because we get married here literally next month. I was like, all right, obviously we can't do it this year. I get it, marriage stuff. But I was like, in the next 2-3 years, I want to go to every Big 12 city. Like, it doesn't matter if Texas Tech is playing there. Like, I just want to go and experience it, right? Like, I told her straight up from the jump, if Texas Tech is scheduled to play in Boulder, Colorado, we are going. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of.
I get to go to one Big 12 city this year. That's kind of a no-brainer. Orlando.
Are you more of a Disney guy or Universal guy?
I'm more of a Universal. I've been to both. I prefer Universal.
Okay.
Disney's just too. Honestly, I like SeaWorld better than both of them, though.
Okay. Are you a roller coaster guy or no?
Yes and no. I like them, but I have about 13 years on you, so I'm at that age in my life where roller coasters are not as fun as they usually. You feel them a little bit after you get off of them once you hit a certain age. They're fun still, and I also have a neck problem, so I have to be careful. But I do like roller coasters. To answer your question,
I will admit I am the biggest bitch you will ever meet when it comes to roller coasters. It's not a no, it's a hell no, a fuck no, whatever word you want to put in front of it.
I used to be that guy when I was younger, but when I was a kid.
Dude, I went on Superman. I don't know if you've seen that ride before where it just goes straight up and then it goes straight down. So we live over here. We're about, for clarity, I live right in Dallas. We're about 20 minutes away from where the Rangers, Cowboys, Six Flags, all that stuff is, right? And so I remember I was like 12 and I got on Superman when it first opened. And I didn't, but I had to double check a couple times to make sure I didn't shit myself because that thing just ruined roller coasters for me. I was like, I'm out. I'm never going on another one. Like, just no. Yeah, I'll go on the log ride. I'll go on the log ride, like where there's water,
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like, I'm that guy. People can call me out for being whatever I want, or whatever they want to call me, but I just won't do it.
I see a comment that says Roy Melton says come to Lubbock next year, Couz. But Matt Wells said there was nothing to do in Lubbock. So what am I going to do?
Well, if you listen to a basketball player, steak and salmon. You know,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard that quote from
I'm sure y'all love Matt Wells, right?
Man, I'll say this. I'm not the person to ask for this one very reason. When I was in college, I got to cover Texas Tech, right?
Okay.
So I got to hang out with Matt Wells and all those guys and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like Matt Wells was super nice to me.
No.
So as a person, I love Matt Wells.
Yeah,
as a football coach,
yeah,
he's garbage.
And I think that comment got taken way out of context anyway. But
I mean, you can't say certain things though. You know what I mean? Because you just can't. You just can't. Just like Tommy right here. How about just talking football? No, Tommy. That is not what we're here to do. We're going to talk about multiple things on this show. That's what we're going to do here, right? We'll talk about
we are here to broaden your horizons.
Yes, exactly.
And expand your knowledge of worldly things, Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and RC are not just we're not just a bunch of dumb jocks.
Thank you. Well, you got one of those words right. But not the other one. So yeah, I mean, batting 500 is cool for
Tommy
me.
said he's leaving. You want to get back to football? I don't want to run your audience off, man.
No, I could care less. If Tommy, one bad apple, don't ruin the whole thing. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
That's how I feel about it. But no, I think
Roy says this is not an airport. No need to announce your departure.
Shout out to Roy. You get on the screen for that one, Roy. Appreciate you, my guy. Nick also says, I think Matt Wells is a great guy, but he was a horrible choice for Texas Tech football. Yeah, no, that basically sums it up.
That's where we have been with Neil Brown right now.
You want him gone?
Not now. I mean, verdict's out. Verdict's still out. Let's see how the season goes. Had he lost last week, I'd probably say yes. I mean, that's how fickle it is right now.
So let's just say hypothetically, right? Like, I'm going to look at y'all's schedule real quick. Right. Okay. So you lose to Texas Tech this week. Then you go play TCU. If you lose to Houston, he's fired, right? That might be a coaching for your job game.
I think it depends. If we lose to Texas Tech, TCU, and Houston, probably.
Yeah. I think that could be a game where whichever coach loses gets fired, depending on how the 2 weeks prior go.
I've been thinking about doing a video on this. I just haven't had time. I don't think Dana Holgerson's getting fired this year. I really don't.
Really? Interesting. I see your perspective for sure, but I also think he has vastly underachieved, and that Rice loss is really going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he shouldn't or that he doesn't deserve the critique. I'm just looking at it from the administration standpoint. He's best friends with the chairman of the board and their biggest donor. Number one, it's going to be hard to fire him. Number two, he's almost told us or told everyone up front that we're not ready yet. We're almost ready, but we're not. I mean, he's kind of been laying the groundwork and telling everybody there's going to be some growing pains. So I think he's almost got some built-in excuses there. And if the administration has bought into that, then I don't see him getting fired. But
are those self-made excuses or legitimate ones, you think, though?
Probably legitimate, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combo of both. I think I'm
not going to sit here and vouch for Dana Holgerson. I mean, he's not.
No.
I don't think he's an awesome coach or anything. I think he's a great offensive coach. He's one of the best in the game. But he's a terrible recruiter. That's why Houston's perfect for him, because he doesn't have to leave his office.
Yeah. No. Dana, to me, it's almost like this is why I'm okay more so firing Dana than Neil, because Neil is willing to admit. Now, it took him a while. Let's be real about it. It took him a while. But he was willing to say, like, okay, I got to get away from the air raid. Not entirely, but at least have to change some things up, right? Dana, on the other hand, is like, no, this is how we're doing it. I'm not changing. This is how we're going to run this offense. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we're going to do it my way or the highway. And I think that's almost a way what happened to Cliff, right? Like, Cliff didn't want to recruit, and he wanted to do whatever the hell he wanted at Texas Tech, and it just didn't work out in the end. But I mean, it is what it is on that front. This from Last Sunrise. RC, how have I not run into you? I live in the DFW area too, because I don't leave the house. If I'm being honest, like, if you don't live in my apartment complex, you ain't gonna see me, bro. Or at the Chipotle down the street. That's just because it's in walking distance. Like, Like that's it.
Do you work from
You're
home?
not, yeah, no, I live.
Okay.
I'm a stay at home, work from home dog dad. Yeah, that's what I do. It's it's a hard life I live. It's a hard life I live. Okay, and I'm just glad that I'm the one that gets to do it. At the same time. Let's see here. I'm gonna Nick. There we go. Recruited well enough to kick off McGuire era. Yeah,
That's fair.
to be fair, like I'll say this, Matt Wells front, and then we can get back into talking about the game a little bit more. Um, Matt Wells left Joey McGuire in a pretty damn good spot in a lot of fronts. I mean, think about it. Joey McGuire and crew elevated Tyree Wilson, but you had a top 10 pick on the defensive line. You also had a ton of experience coming back in Muddy Waters on the defense. You had Rabbit. You had other guys as well. Like Matt Wells did really good in the portal. The problem with Matt Wells is he could not recruit a high schooler to save his life. Like the only reason he got anybody ranked a 4-star or higher was because Baron Morton was born a Red Raider. Like that's it. Like if he wasn't a Red Raider since birth, there's no way in hell. Like I mean, they were averaging like the 75th recruiting class in the country. It was abysmal. But it is what it is. Oh, real quick on Extra wants to know this. Gundy to West Virginia?
Hell no.
Texas? Okay, there we go. That's fair.
I'm
enough.
not, and I've been a Mike Gundy guy, but if he's not willing to embrace the portal and NIL, then I do not want him. You can't survive at West Virginia. Well, you can't survive anywhere if you don't embrace that. It's just
it's insane to me, right? Like that's insane in today's college football, and especially at West Virginia. I mean, y'all have one of the top 5 NIL collectives going, right? Like that's how you got your basketball team. That well, you're going to play a lot and stuff like that too. But like, I mean, my goodness, like it some of the comments Gundy has, like, I think I'm almost at the point now where I'm almost like, okay, like. Can't keep giving you a pass for what you did in the past, right? Like this is a new wave of college football, and you were getting left behind again. 33-7 against South Alabama. Pickens, like you should be fired for that. You should be fired. I don't care if everybody on your team transferred. You should be fired for that. Like that was. I don't know if you watched a second of that game, Couz.
I did not. I was in Morgantown.
I watched 2 drives, and I literally was like, "This is disgusting." It almost feels like he's just forcing his son to be the quarterback. Like they're mixing and matching and doing all this stuff, but it's like it almost feels like he's doing that to make sure his son gets an opportunity. It's just, it's disgusting.
It's a little. I mean, it's a little. I had a show the other day with Cody from Locked On Oklahoma State, and I asked him if it was, if he thought it was nepotism, and he said he thinks it goes deeper than that. Yes, they have bigger problems than just that. So
no, I if you ask me, the school I think should be up there in the upper echelon of the new Big 12, but simply won't because of like their head coach and also just everything that's going wrong within their program. It's Oklahoma State. There's no reason Oklahoma State shouldn't be a top 4 program in the new Big 12 every year. Every year.
And you've got to thank Gundy for that to a degree, but at the same time, I mean, he's been a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But he just refuses.
He told you about it.
That's right. But he refuses to adapt. And when you refuse to, even Bob Huggins adapted, man, in basketball. He was adapting. If Bob Huggins can adapt, Mike Gundy can adapt, Come on, Mike. Get it together, bro.
Name right there. Alan Bowman. Holy shit. My God. Man, there was a stretch there after Patrick Mahomes, Couz. If you can name 2 quarterbacks that Texas Tech has had after Patrick Mahomes, round of applause to you.
Henry Colombi.
That's the one you name. Okay, I like it.
Jet Duffy.
Oh, we don't. That's a name we don't talk about. I don't know if you know the off the field stuff, but
both of those guys have beaten West Virginia. That's why I name them.
That's really brave of you to say that both of those guys, they're the reason that they're
not the reason, but they were the quarterback of those teams.
Fair enough. They
played like garbage, and that helped. But every time, no kidding. You guys, the last 3 years, I think or at least 3 of the last 4 years, you guys have played us with a backup quarterback and beaten us. Baron Morton, Henry
You,
Columby, Jet Duffy, and I don't know who the quarterback of the other team was, but
last year,
it was Morton. Shough was hurt last year when we
yeah,
played
there
you
it
guys.
was. That was the backup quarterback, Morton.
And he absolutely just burned us alive, and he was sick that game too. Is what's sad about it.
You may see him on Saturday if shit hits the fan with Shough.
I hope we don't.
A lot of Red Raider fans wish that you do.
I think he's a better quarterback, just to be honest.
You think Morton's the better quarterback than Shough?
Yeah, I'm not saying Shough's terrible, but to me, this is just my opinion. In that offense, I think Baron Morton's a better fit.
I think that I'm legitimately have no dog in the fight. I see both sides of it. Like Tyler Shough, our wide receivers, we talked about it earlier. They struggle getting open. Tyler Shough allows you to run the football a little bit better from the quarterback spot. Baron Morton, you have to throw into tighter windows because he's more of that gunslinger, right? But I also think Baron Morton allows you to space the field more and have your wide receivers potentially get more into space because the secondary isn't collapsing down a little bit, a couple of yards, and it really allows you to have that intermediate passing game.
Yeah. So here's what I'm hoping for. Last year, Baron Morton beat us as a redshirt freshman backup.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. I see it.
Full circle, right?
I see it. I see it. I see it. Let's jump into the predictions because I've kept you an hour, man. I really appreciate you.
I'm sorry if I hope I did not take over your show. That was not my intent at all.
No.
This has been a blast, man.
Oh, man. I'm having a great time, and don't let that one bad apple. I even forgot his name. Think to change the process or anything like that. Let's jump into predictions. I think this is really what people want to hear, right? Like when it comes down to it, prediction is that sexy word that everybody searches, SEO, like we were talking about, right? What is your prediction for this game on Saturday in Morgantown? Laying the scene a little bit more. It's an afternoon game. Tyler Shough will start for Texas Tech. Not sure who's going to start for West Virginia. Could be Garrett Greene, probably leaning towards Nicco. So you got that Hamilton, Arizona thing going on. But or Chandler, Arizona, excuse me. Hamilton High School is where Nicco went. But Texas Tech comes in to West Virginia looking for their 5th straight win over the Mountaineers. It is the only school in the Big 12 that I feel comfortable saying that Texas Tech has done decent against over the past 5 years in football, regardless of where they're playing. Couz, what is your prediction for this game? Again, Texas Tech, 6.5-point favorites. I was a little bit surprised by that. You weren't. Total over under is 54.5. What's your score prediction, and how do you see this one going on Saturday?
I think I'm concerned about our secondary. I still need more proof that they're better than last year because Pitt was not, to me, a great litmus test for that. I think your receiving core and this style of offense at Tech will really test us and our secondary on Saturday. And until West Virginia secondary proves they can perform well against a team that likes to throw the football around the field, and until Neil Brown proves he can beat Texas Tech, regardless who their quarterback is and regardless who their coach is, I can't pick West. I still got to go with Tech, 31-24 Tech. You cut the Tech covers, and you hit the over. The 55.
What
you say the over was?
54.5. You got it by
55.
half a point. There you go. Yeah, I think for me, first and foremost, shout out to Neil Brown for the fact that he feels sorry enough for Tech fans because of what Tommy Tuberville did during his time at Texas Tech. Shout out to him for that. Letting Tech win these past 4 years and everything, right? Like, shout out to him. I think for me, again, if this game was in Lubbock, I'm picking Tech by 2 tutties. Like, I am, right? But it's on the road, and this team has struggled on the road, right? And they've had success in Morgantown. I get that. But I think this is going to be a closer game than people think. And it would not shock me at all if Tyler Shough struggles in the first half. You see Baron Morton in the second. It would not shock me at all. I know you don't want to see it. I know a lot of Tech fans do, if you look at the comments on some of my videos. But I think for me, again, I talked about it. Who's going to win in the trenches? Does the West Virginia defensive line win, or does the Texas Tech offensive line win? Whoever wins that matchup wins the game. I'm going to give the edge to Texas Tech because of the words you said earlier in tempo. I don't think West Virginia is going to have the chance to really sub like they want in this game. And I think Zach Kittley is finally going to use his second best playmaker in Taj Brooks. And I think he's actually going to use him in a way that allows Tyler Shough to get him the ball in a multitude of ways, not just rushing, but also passing out in the flat, whatever it may be, right? So for that, I look at it and I think Texas Tech does win this game. I think it's going to be 33-25 over, and Texas Tech covers as well. And I think this too, I think that you're going to know within the first 5 to 6 minutes who's going to win this football game, in my opinion, because I'll tell you right now, if West Virginia just blows up a couple of plays on the Tech offensive line, it's going to be a very long day for Texas Tech because they're not going to make an adjustment that matters. They're just not, because they're going to be rotating in a tackle. Ty Buchanan, that's the interesting part in this. Monroe Mills, a guy that I really like, has struggled a little bit at left tackle. Don't be surprised if you see Ty Buchanan over there for a series or two, according to Joey McGuire. But I think this, you could know it really early on, but I'll go ahead and say it. I mean, who cares? You know, people can always go back and the internet lives forever, right? Who cares? I think Tyler Shough has a big game on Saturday. I think that he has a game that's kind of in that he throws for 2 touchdowns, throws for around 225, 250, no INTs, and then he rushes one in as well. I think that that's what kind of happens. And I think Texas Tech turns the ball over a couple times. Who I expected to be Nicco. Is that the feeling you're getting as well?
Yeah. He was Garrett Greene was in a red jersey at practice yesterday, okay, I believe, which means he was limited. So yeah, if he's not a full go at practice by Wednesday, my gut is he probably won't. Not. I mean, there's been no official announcement. Yeah. At least not that I know of. Not at least not as of yet, anyway. But I think Nicco's probably going to be the guy. I do think we'll get pressure on your quarterback because we have been good at that all year. Yeah. But the problem is we're not getting home a lot. We don't have a lot of sacks to show for that pressure. So if Tyler Shough, which I know it's not his greatest strength, but if he's able to get rid of the football, he should be able to get some open guys, especially that big 8-foot tall tight end you have.
Oh yeah, Mason Tharp. Yeah, did you actually know this? Mason Tharp is the Los Angeles Lakers starting center. It's a little known fact. Yeah, he's that tall. Huh? Yeah, Mason Tharp, the tight end, he's the starting center for the Lakers. He plays football in the free time for Texas Tech. It's a joke. It's a bad one, but he's that tall.
I don't think that's even legal.
He's a freak, man. The crazy part is about Mason Tharp. This is a tangent, by the way. When he showed up to campus, he was 6'6". He's now closer to 6'10".
I heard 6'9" is what I've heard him called. Is that pretty accurate?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember watching one of his high school games, and I talked to his old coach quite a bit. He's a Tech grad, and I'm like, dude, how is he still growing? Like, what's going on here? Like, again, he showed up on campus. It depends where you look where he was listed, right? But his coach told me he was 6'6". He's now 6'9.5", maybe 6'10". He is legitimately, like, if he wanted to, he could be a starting center in the NBA, height-wise. It's crazy.
Yeah. Our linebacker, Trey Lathan, our redshirt freshman linebacker, leads and I heard this today on another podcast, very interesting stat, leads the Big 12 in quarterback hurries.
I saw that was 6, right?
But he has 0 sacks. So
I'll tell you this.
Not quarterback hurries. I'm sorry, quarterback hits.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that could go a long way against Tyler Shough, though. The thing is you don't have to get home on Tyler Shough. You just he has to see the pressure, and then he makes a mistake. That's it.
I just have and I hate to talk crap about my own team, but the secondary has to show me something against a team that throws the ball. And until they do, I think we're going to struggle.
Fair enough. Let us know your score prediction in the comments before we get out of here. We'll give you a shout out. This has been a ton of fun, man. I mean, just going back and forth, everything like that. When you come down to Texas, because hopefully that happens here soon.
I hope so.
You got to let us know.
Yeah, and I will say, any Tech fans coming to Morgantown, be ready. It should be a great crowd. We actually there's some positivity brewing in our fan base now that we beat our rival, and there's some hope. You know,
It's a
Things are
dangerous thing.
we feel
Hope's a
good.
dangerous thing.
It is a dangerous thing, and we all, like y'all, like always, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and you know.
What's your
But
favorite
anyway,
kind of Kool-Aid?
fruit punch.
Fruit punch. Okay. Are you a big fruit punch Gatorade guy too?
I am, but I prefer lemon lime Gatorade too. Lemon lime's my favorite. Fruit punch would be number 2.
You're more of like a so you're more of a traditionalist when it comes to Gatorade.
I am. I'm not
Okay.
crazy about all the new
Yeah, you're
colors.
not getting into that like glacier ice stuff like me.
Nope, nope. I
Yeah,
don't like it.
that's fair. No, that's fair.
No, my
You
kids do, but not
yeah.
me.
You put anything in your coffee either? Are you a coffee drinker?
I typically put I typically put a lot of creamer in it, but here lately I've been trying to do better and drink it without creamer. So I've just been putting sugar-free flavor shots in there with some artificial sweetener. I got to have something. I can't drink it straight black.
Dude, I don't know how people do that. I really don't. I don't understand it. Like, do they like drinking chalk? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't
And I
understand.
and I don't know. I don't like beer either. I know some people may.
Oh, I was about to ask what's your favorite beer.
I don't
Okay,
like
there you
beer.
go.
I'm a mixed drink guy. I like margaritas and whiskey sours and Jack and Coke, and
My
that's my
man.
thing.
My man. To be fair, basically whatever you put in front of me, I'll give it a shot. But I found out the other day, and people will judge me for this in the comments. It's fine. My fiance, I told you she worked in social media.
Mhm.
We went to this event that was called like Whiskey Fest here in Dallas.
Ooh, I bet that was fun.
No, it wasn't. Um, that day is the day that I found out that I am not a whiskey guy. I don't have enough hair on my chest. I don't think I've seen enough things to be
Okay.
that into whiskey. Like it listen, granted, again, I gave it a shot, man. I gave it a shot. Like, and when I mean a shot, I had like 7 of them. But yeah, no, that was the day I figured out. I was like, if this shit is not mixed with something, I'm not touching it. We're not playing games
I
because
can't
I
drink
have
it straight now. I'm not drinking it
dude,
straight.
dude, and Roy brings up a good point here. This is the only one I'll drink. Johnny Walker Black Label. But here's the thing, Roy. I'm poor. I don't like spending money on that kind of stuff. Right? Like I
Jack
just
Daniels,
don't.
baby.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Nothing wrong with a little JD and Coke, man.
dude, I legitimately saw demons for at least 35 minutes after the 7th whiskey shot. I was seeing things.
You ever had
And
Fireball whiskey?
uh, have I had Fireball whiskey? Let me tell you about my sophomore year of college. All right, no, just kidding. Just kidding. We ain't got enough time for that. We
Hey,
ain't
man,
got
that's
enough
tough.
time for that. But
Yeah.
no, appreciate you coming on, man. Where can the people find you one more time? I've taken up enough of your time tonight. Really,
All right,
really
man.
gracious with it, and I really, really appreciate it.
Couz's Corner on YouTube. I cover West Virginia football, Big 12 football. And I forgot to plug this earlier. I actually have a West Virginia basketball channel as well that I do with a partner of mine named Mountaineer Paul. It's called Hoops from the Hills. We covered the Bob Huggins story from beginning to, I would say end, but I don't think it's over. But
Yeah.
we covered the Bob Huggins story in great detail. You know, we touched on a lot of the offseason drama and a lot of the positives too. We have a lot of really good players coming in next year or for next year. We've talked about all of them pretty much. So go check out Hoops from the Hills if you want to stay up to date on West Virginia basketball. But yeah, I mean, that's where you can find me. I'm on social media at Couz206 on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
come check me out and interact with me. I love to interact with folks.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a little bit of a piece of me that didn't want to like you for one reason. It has nothing to do with you. Just for the simple fact that y'all got Raekwon Battle in the portal and Texas Tech didn't. Legitimately, that's the only reason.
Dude, if we're just crossing our fingers that his waiver gets approved because it hasn't yet.
Yeah, he's a fucking stud, man.
Yes, he is. I cannot, dude. When I watch his highlight tape, I'm like,
just go watch what he did against Tech in the tournament.
We got that guy.
Yeah.
I
look
mean,
what he did against
is
Texas Tech in the tournament. It's crazy.
Yeah. And we got Jesse Edwards from Syracuse.
Yep.
Kirk
And
Creasy
you
from
got
Arizona.
to keep the Arizona guard, even though he went in the portal and stayed back. That's where that NIL collective comes in.
And we got a cook too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think West Virginia, again, people need to take notice about what y'all are doing on the NIL front. Y'all have done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. We got a guy over there we got a guy on staff named Jay Couz. I got to give him all the credit or most of the credit for that. He's really good at finding these guys and figuring out how to get them deals along with our collective, of course.
Sure.
It's all done legally. I mean, it's part of the game now. They figure out ways to get deals for these guys, even overseas guys. That there's loopholes that they find in the rules where they can get deals overseas for them, and they're able to make it work.
Yeah, I'll end it on this because this has been a lot of fun, and I think this may be the comment of the night from Nick. I like my coffee like my ex's soul, black. Again, shout out to Couz for hopping on here. Go check out.
This has been so much fun. We need to do this again. I need to have you on my show sometime. I
appreciate it, man. I would love to hop on and go back and forth. I'm sure people would make fun of how I look like a youth pastor. I'm all about it, though. I look like I'm 12 and I'm about to go to church and talk about, I don't know. But here we go. I appreciate you hopping on, Couz. Again, go check out Couz's Corner here on YouTube. Legitimately, I'm not even just saying this. One of my favorite Big 12 YouTube channels from the standpoint of he covers his team very well, but he doesn't stay in that box, right? And I think that's some things that people struggle with on YouTube sometimes is they focus on one thing a lot, and which is great. But I don't want to hear about that all the time. I want to hear about your perspective on the whole league as a whole, and I think you do a phenomenal job at it, Couz.
Well, thank you. I try, man.
Yeah,
if I had time, I'd cover the whole conference, all the time. But
listen,
that story.
We both know that nobody has that time. That's why they make bots. Yep. But yeah, I appreciate you hopping on again. He's Couz. I'm RC. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit subscribe to stay in the know on Texas Tech all year long, right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.